Dinosaurs. I love dinosaurs and lore. Today, we're going to be talking about the Dinosaur and Jurassic Park Iceberg, which is just a chart that has a bunch of different things from Jurassic Park, Jurassic World, different parts of dinosaur media, just dinosaur stuff in general. And if you don't know what a iceberg chart is, basically on this one, we start off with the more well-known stuff at the top, such as Dinotopia and the Doomsday Rex, and further down we go, we get into some more obscure things, such as the Hupia, and the fact that like the T-Rex animatronic moved on its own. So if you guys are also a huge dinosaur nerd just like me, then go ahead and stick around and we will get into the video. Starting off with Tier 1 Dinotopia. So, Dinotopia was this book series and later on a television show by James Gurney. This guy created this world about an island that was a mysterious and forgotten place where dinosaurs roamed, and then humans then were shipwrecked or crashed a plane there and created a utopian society where humans and dinosaurs coexisted. What's interesting about this show is the dinosaurs were used for different things, like the pterosaur, people use them to fly around on. The brachiosaur, people use them as a bus and to transport things. And all the dinosaurs had interesting things. Even some sauropods wore armor to protect themselves against the T-Rex, which I thought was really epic because, you know, dinosaur armor, awesome. You ever seen like elephant armor, like in a museum? It's kind of like that. It's really cool. But anyways, in Dinotopia, this civilization was such a utopian society, and some of the dinosaurs were so smart and they developed sapience and could speak and think like humans. They even had some interspecies relationships and marriages between the dinosaurs and the humans, which it seems like an absolute abomination to me, but you know, go off, my dude. He was a pretty creative guy, so, you know, I'll give him that. What I really liked about this universe that this guy had created on this island is that he tied in different things in the world, like Roman architecture for some buildings, Aztec style like pyramids, Victorian style buildings and decor and such, and he used it to create this world that felt like nowhere else on the planet. The Jurassic Park arcade game. So this was an arcade shooter game that was created by Sega Genesis in 1994. The arcade machine looked like the rear part of the Ford Explorer that they used in the Jurassic Park tour in the movies. This game was kind of just like a mindless shooter game where you shot dinosaurs like the T-Rex, the Velociraptor, stuff like that. But what's really cool is the sequel to this game, the Lost World Jurassic Park arcade game. In this game, we get to see a really cool dinosaur that we don't get to see portrayed in any of the movies, and that is the Jurassic Park Lost World version of the Carnotaurus. So the original Carnotaurus in the books were supposed to be extremely similar to a chameleon. It had this curled up tail and the ability to almost go invisible because of its camouflage. It also kind of had like horns like the chameleon has as well. And so in the movies, we don't get to see this thing, but in this one game, we get to see the actual version that was supposed to be like in the second book. And it's just awesome in this game. It phases in and out of being visible because it's blending in. The thing looks like a true Jurassic Park monster, which we'll talk about later, you know, dinosaur monster. And we also see other cool dinosaur-like animals like the Dinotopia, which is an ancient alligator thing. And you get to shoot like the pterosaurs that are flying around too, which, you know, I feel like everybody has always wanted to shoot a pterosaur out of the sky. If you're like me, I guess maybe not everybody, but anyways, the Jurassic Park The Lost World arcade game is actually ranked in one of the top 50 best arcade games of all time. Hammonds Elephant. So in the Jurassic Park novel, Hammond had this miniature dog-sized elephant, and he would parade this elephant around and use it to raise money for the creation of his park. John Hammond claimed that he had created this elephant using new genetic technology, but in reality, it was not a genetically engineered organism, but rather it was an elephant that was created using hormones to make it much smaller. And not only was it not created like he said it was, but it had some serious problems. It was prone to colds all the time, so it would get sick and almost die all the time. It had a horrible temper where if anybody tried to touch it or pet it, it would try to bite their finger off, and it would constantly get stuck in its cage because of its tusks. And anyways, it eventually ended up dying, but it kind of showed how Hammond, even earlier on in the book, was hinted at being extremely dishonest. Argentinosaurus size. So this is known as one of the largest animals of all time and the largest dinosaur to exist. It was 115 feet long, 80 tons, and over 26 feet tall. One of its leg bones alone was over 8 feet tall. So this thing was absolutely massive. They just don't make them in Argentina like they used to. Am I right, my dinosaur nerds? Tier 2. Owen is the dig site kid from Jurassic Park. So this is the theory that the kid that was at Dr. Grant's dig site, who talks about the velociraptors just being like 6 foot tall turkeys, grows up to be Owen Grady, who is the main character in the Jurassic World movies. And people even go a step further and say that Owen was in the Marines during Jurassic Park 3 and actually even landed on the beach along with Vic Hoskins in Jurassic Park 3 on Isla Sorna. And maybe because of him and Vic Hoskins being here to kill the pterosaurs, maybe Owen also got his Jurassic World job because of this. Because we know that Vic Hoskins gets his Jurassic World job because of his extermination of the pterosaurs. No complete dinosaur fossils. This is referring to the fact that the vast majority of dinosaur fossils that we find are just a few bone fragments, and that there is not a single 100% complete fossil of a dinosaur that we have to date. Now, we do have some really close ones, such as the Sioux skeleton of the Tyrannosaurus Rex that was found in South Dakota in 1990, and you can see that thing in Chicago today. It's a really cool skeleton, but people do use this argument to say that maybe we're not putting the dinosaurs together correctly, like at all, and that we're extremely overestimating or underestimating what they actually looked like, and maybe they were just dragons like they were dragons, but we'll talk about that later. Doomsday Rex / Ultimasaurus. So the Doomsday Rex was a genetically engineered dinosaur hybrid that had multiple heads and sometimes had tentacles too. It was said that it was supposed to be an unstoppable predator, and it was going to appear in the canceled The Lost World animated series, but it never did, so it's not canon. The Ultimasaurus is another hybrid that is just an amalgamation of a bunch of really cool dinosaur parts. It's got a Triceratops head with horns and then the mouth of like a T-Rex. It's got Ankylosaurus armor, some Stegosaurus spikes, Velociraptor claws, an Ankylosaurus club on its tail in some depictions, and it was larger than the Indominus Rex at 65 feet long, fully grown, and because of this, people think it could have taken down the Indominus Rex. But the design came from a canceled toy line from the original Jurassic Park movie, so also it is not canon. Dinosaurs can detect electricity. So this idea is based on the way the dinosaurs reacted in the first movie, breaking out of the fences. In the first movie, we see Rexy leaning an arm on the fence after she dropped the goat leg on the car, which implies she somehow knew that the fence was off and was testing it out before breaking through it completely. Dr. Grant also mentions in the movies about how dinosaurs evolved into birds, and today we know that birds navigate using magnetic field detectors in their brains, so I feel like it's not too far-fetched to think that maybe dinosaurs could detect whenever the electric fences were on or off. Tier 3, the Pervatasaurus. This name implies exactly what you think. This is a rumor about a dinosaur that existed that was a pervert. Diddy dinosaur, if you will. The Pervatasaurus was allegedly this plant-eating dinosaur that didn't hunt animals for meat, but rather for pleasure. The dinosaur was said to capture and do its thing to these dinosaurs and then let it go. What's funny is you can go on Google right now and type in what is the Pervatasaurus, and it will do this AI transcript thing that's like, oh, it was this maybe dinosaur that existed that is real and it did these things. But in reality, the Pervatasaurus came from a parody news television show called the Onion News Network. So It's ridiculous that AI is doing this to us. AI be making the Pervatasaurus real. Now we got Diddy dinosaurs in museums. I think I'm going to spend my life specializing in Pervatasaurus research from now on. Jurassic Park San Diego. So the original plan for Jurassic Park by John Hammond was actually a site in San Diego. He planned to have this large amphitheater that was built on an island right next to San Diego, where Hammond planned to have the dinosaurs from Isla Nublar. However, he figured out that this just wouldn't work and there wasn't enough space, and then we see in one of the movies the San Diego incident happened where the adult T-Rex broke out of the boat and was looking for the baby T-Rex and absolutely rampaged to the city searching for the baby and killed a whole bunch of people, and then nothing, there's no justice. And then the rest of the movies seem like they pretend like that didn't even happen. But yeah, San Diego, having all the dinosaurs there, that would have been, I don't think that would have been the greatest ever. Jurassic Park original ending. So in the book, John Hammond's character is much different. He is much more of an evil, money-grubbing businessman rather than the nice man that we see in the movie. So in the book, he gets a much more appropriate ending for an evil businessman. So at the end, right after a whole bunch of people had just died in the book, John Hammond decides to go on a walk, and he's mad and having this dialogue with himself where he's blaming everyone else for this terrible accident that had just happened at his island and his park that he had specifically cut a bunch of funding, like cut a bunch of corners for, that led to people's deaths, but he was blaming everybody else. And so he was planning on his new park. He's like, I'm gonna make it better with basically the same, but with different people, and that's why it will work. In reality, I mean, we saw Jurassic World, so. And then when he's on this walk, his grandchildren play a T-Rex roar through the speakers of the park. This startles Hammond, and he falls down a hill, breaking his ankle. Hammond then cries for help, but is soon swarmed by these tiny little dinosaurs called compies. They kind of look like chicken dinosaurs, and they devour him. And it's kind of more of an appropriate ending for the character in the book. And then also, the entire island gets razed and bombed with napalm, thus destroying any chance of any dinosaurs surviving on the island and Jurassic Park coming back. It's kind of a more appropriate ending. I actually like this ending quite a bit. Quetzalcoatlus, the largest flying thing. So Quetzalcoatlus was a pterosaur-like dinosaur with a wingspan of up to 59 feet. That is nearly impossible for me to imagine. That is a massive dinosaur. It was also 18 feet tall, which is taller than most giraffes, and likely weighed 550 pounds, and is 20 times heavier than today's heaviest bird that we have on Earth in modern day. It was also estimated that this thing could fly at speeds up to 80 miles per hour, and it likely could fly for days at a time and even fly at an altitude of 15,000 feet. But it probably couldn't fly at 80 miles an hour for multiple days and 15,000 feet. But it is really crazy that we had dinosaurs like this and people still be saying that we don't have dinosaurs. Dude, we look at this thing. You're gonna look at this and tell me it's not a dinosaur or a dragon? This thing's a dragon. Spinosaurus is a hybrid. So the Spinosaurus is the coolest dinosaur in Jurassic Park. We all know this, but there's a theory that the Spinosaurus is actually one of the first hybrids. So people believe this theory because some engine employees said they went back to Isla Sorna in 1999 to do some research and development for the second version of Jurassic Park. At the same time, they said they were doing amalgam testing. This is when they introduced 4 new illegal species into the ecosystem of Isla Sorna: the Ceratosaurus, the Ankylosaurus, the Corythosaurus, and the Spinosaurus. Also, there's this note from Dr. Wu where he details how he left an accident on Isla Sorna. Now, this could be referring to the Sorna velociraptors or the Spinosaurus, which I want to believe is the Spinosaurus because I love the Spinosaurus and it is so cool. I don't know why there's so many Spino haters. Those movies came out and they showed the Jurassic Park Spinosaurus. People were like, we want the T-Rex to win. No. You're wrong. I love Spinosaurus. Anyways, the Spinosaurus wasn't on InGen's list of dinosaurs that were supposed to be there, making us assume that the Spinosaurus is actually an amalgamation, or just like an accident. Also, the Spinosaurus was a theropod and was much more like a T-Rex or other previously cloned dinosaurs on InGen's list. So based on this and the fact that the Spinosaurus design should actually walk on all fours, but we didn't actually know that back when the movie was made, but people like to add their fan theory there and say they knew and they just made it wrong because it was a hybrid. We can assume that maybe the Spinosaurus was an early hybrid or an accident. It's also said that after this testing they did in 1999, they tried to mix bird DNA with the Spinosaurus and ended up with a much more aggressive version of the creature, which if that's what the Spinosaurus actually was in the movies, that kind of explains why the Spinosaurus acts less like an animal but rather like a bloodthirsty monster. But you know, I say that, but it's not really that much different than like the T-Rex or the Velociraptors, so. But that sucker, I mean, that sucker hunted like a Velociraptor. Throw in a Spinosaurus edit. Throw in a sick Spinosaurus edit with it in the rain and there's lightning. And it's got a bunch of muscles. It looks like it's an anabolic Spinosaurus. It's a schizo-lifting Spinosaurus that just drinks energy drinks, and it's so cool. It doesn't care that it looks super lame. It doesn't look lame because it's a Spinosaurus. It has a Monster Energy hat too. It's wearing Heelys. Tier 4. Amanda Kirby created the Indominus Rex. In Jurassic Park 3, Amanda Kirby left open the door to the aviary and allowed the Petrodons to leave their enclosure. Oh my gosh, I said Petrodon. Have I been saying that? Please tell me I haven't been saying that. Pterodons. The pterodon. I did a video the other day. I don't know why I did it. I don't say this. I say pterodon, and I said Petrodon, and I've been roasted into oblivion because of it. Guys, I know it's pterodon. I heard someone say Petrodon the other day, and it threw me off, and now I've been saying that, and it's pterodon. Amanda Kirby left open the door on the aviary and allowed the pterodons to leave their enclosure. Now, because the pterodons left their enclosure, Vic Hoskins was tasked with killing them, and because of this, he got a job at InGen. Then, when Vic Hoskins was at Jurassic World working with InGen, he and Dr. Henry Wu made a plan to create the Indominus Rex. Why did they do that? I don't really know why they did that. Why do they keep creating these dinosaurs that they know they can't control, but then making them even more dangerous and deadly without any attributes that would make sense for them to make control, or have control? You know what I'm saying? It's like, there's no way they ever would have gotten the T-Rex to actually listen to them. Like in the novel, there's no way the Velociraptors would have listened to anybody ever. It was just like they were demons, guys. Well, we'll get into that later. So anyways, Vic Hoskins creates the Indominus Rex with Henry Wu. Thus, Amanda Kirby, leaving the door open on the aviary, started the domino effect that ended with the creation of the Indominus Rex, the Delphaeus Hills Ghoul. Guys, I love this game. I bet you've played it or maybe heard of it. It's kind of obscure. It's called Carnivores. Now, this was basically a dinosaur hunting game where you weren't actually hunting dinosaurs, but rather you were on an alien planet in the year 2190 hunting aliens that look just like dinosaurs, and they all have the same dinosaur names. But anyways, in this game there was this huge rumor that came about in the community about this monster thing that only a few people had seen, and it started to be called the Delphaeus Hills Ghoul because it was in this area of the game that was the Delphaeus Hills. Anyways, it looked kind of like a giant lizard that was kind of in the shape of a yeti, but it became such a big part of the game culture that they actually created a mod for it, and now you can play Carnivores and go hunt this ghoul creature that is the Delphaeus Hills Ghoul. I don't think there ever was a conclusion on why people originally started seeing this thing. I think maybe it was in the game's design to begin with, like they had gone into the coding and seen the outline for this creature, but it was never implemented into the game actually. until like the mod came out. The Scorpius Rex. So technically speaking, the Scorpius Rex is actually the first successful hybrid dinosaur to be created, predating the Indominus Rex. So this dinosaur was held captive in Injin's secret tunnels on Isla Nublar until it escaped and reappeared as a major antagonist in the Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous series. I have not watched this series, but hey, more dinosaur media, I'm cool with that. I think they should make as much as possible, and they should bring back Spinosaurus, and it should beat the T-Rex twice. It should beat 2 T-Rexes at once and bite their heads off. Anyways, the Scorpius Rex was a medium-sized theropod that was a little bit smaller than the Indominus Rex, but larger than the Indoraptor. It was also bigger than velociraptors in general. But the reason it was called the Scorpius Rex was not because it was like a scorpion, but rather it was mixed with things like the Tyrannosaurus, tree frog, obviously, the Carnotaurus, and then a scorpion fish. So what's cool about that is it doesn't have a scorpion tail, but rather it has these spikes like the scorpion fish has. And if you know what like the scorpion fish is, it has one of the most painful stings of any creature, I believe, and its stings can even lead to death. And if you get stung by one of these things, it injects venom into you and it really messes you up. So don't step on a scorpion fish, and don't get stung by the Scorpius Rex either. Alan Grant psychic abilities. Alright, so in Jurassic Park 3, we see Alan Grant on an airplane where he wakes up and sees a velociraptor looking at him saying, Alan. This is a huge meme. But besides that, for some reason, Alan Grant was dreaming of these velociraptors that he had never seen yet. Like, obviously, he had seen the original raptors in the original Jurassic Park, but this was the third movie, and he had never seen the velociraptors on Isla Sorna. So because of this, people theorize that Alan Grant has some sort of psychic abilities, maybe with dinosaurs in general, but maybe just with these raptors. So yeah, Alan Grant, psychic abilities, he knew the velociraptors were going to look like that. How'd he do it? Psychic abilities. Mayan ruins, Jurassic Park. So in this game, Jurassic Park Trespasser, it was a game in 1997, there's lore in this game about how Isla Sorna was occupied by the Mayan people, and the Mayans had built temples and even pyramids on the west side of the island. There's even this map for Jurassic Park 3 that actually had a spot labeled Ancient Ruins, which if there was ancient ruins, we could probably assume there are Mayan ruins. So however, none of these ruins are technically canon, as we're not exclusively seeing them in any of the movie's canon. However, in the new Jurassic World movie, Jurassic World Rebirth, we get a glimpse of what looks like Mayan ruins way up in the mountains whenever they try to get the egg from the Quetzalcoatlus. I'm guessing that's what they're doing in this scene. But these ruins look just like Mayan ruins. I sure hope they intertwine some bit of historical lore along with this island. That would be so sick. How the heck did the Mayans build this structure way up in the mountains? Probably the green flame. We'll talk about that later. Tier 5, Plesiosaur lake monsters. This part of the iceberg, I put this here because a lot of different alleged lake monsters, such as like the famous Loch Ness Monster or Champy, the lake monster in New York and Vermont, look just like plesiosaurs. Like if you look at this map, I'm looking at a map right now, I'm probably showing it to you right now. You can see like all up and down all these states, there's a whole bunch of dadgum plesiosaurs. Why is that? Are they there? Yes, in our heads. Man, I wish they were there. So anyways, all these plesiosaur sightings have led to something called the plesiosaur effect. Essentially, this just means that people have been influenced by fossils of marine reptiles when interpreting something they see in the water that they don't understand. So maybe they see a log or a gigantic 80-foot tall snake and they say, oh, that's probably a plesiosaur, but really it's just a massive snake that's predating the plesiosaur. I don't know why I'm saying this. There's no giant snake. The people saw something different. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was a plesiosaur. I'm not saying it's not, but it probably wasn't. Dinosauroids. Despite what some of you guys are thinking, no, this is not dinosaurs on steroids, but if it was dinosaurs on steroids, it would look like the Spinosaurus, because the Spinosaurus is the greatest dinosaur of all time. I bet the Spinosaurus could bench press 4,700 pounds. Do you see that dude's arms? But no, they didn't give dinosaur steroids in this theory. Dinosauroids is a hypothetical species that is a very, very creative idea by a paleontologist who theorized that if these dinosaurs hadn't gone extinct, they would have evolved into humans. And so this is what it looks like. So this guy thought that if this Stenonychosaurus, I don't know how to pronounce it, that's the best I can do, which was like this medium-sized theropod dinosaur, hadn't died in a mass extinction event, then it could have evolved into intelligent beings similar in body to humans. And he thought this because of the way its brains were growing larger, and its brain was a bit larger than other dinosaurs compared to its body mass. Which honestly, bro, what? I honestly don't see why this was ever a thing. Why would it look that human? I actually saw this when I was young, and there's very few things that genuinely made me feel like we should wipe entire things off the planet. You know what I mean? But when I saw a picture of this, I was like, you know what? We need to exterminate every single one of these. Anyways, I say that, but now I'm going to be a hypocrite and then talk about something I actually really enjoy. Jurassic Park 4 human hybrids. So after Jurassic Park 3, there was a pitched plot for a fourth Jurassic Park movie that was basically going to be about how Jurassic Park had created human dinosaur hybrids to go out and eradicate all the other dinosaurs throughout the world that had escaped the island. Here are some of the amazing creations of them. We had the Triceratops man, who is very wide. I wonder if they didn't use some of the Hulk's design, because like look at that foot in that hand. It looks like the Hulk, but it is very muscular. It is, I would call it dinosauroid, if you know what I'm saying. But this dude looked pretty mean. He has opposable thumbs, unlike the other ones for some reason. I wonder why he has that. I guess it's useful to have opposable thumbs, but he's pretty cool. And then we got the Velociraptor man. This thing is absolute nightmare fuel. I think if they genuinely made this movie and they made it into like a horror movie, it would have made sense and it would have been scary, because like look at this thing's eyes. Just the pacing of its eyes and the deranged look in its eyes. You can feel it. You can feel the energy of this evil Velociraptor man pulsing through its being. It's terrible. Look at its hands. Oh my gosh. Imagine this thing getting you, you know, with its little... Gosh, dang. I don't like the way its tail looks, though. It kind of throws me off. Look at its tail. I guess the T-Rex is also like that. This is the T-Rex man. I don't know if they were going to call it that. But it looks like it's still the size of a T-Rex, but it is human-ish like. It has humaner-like abilities. Its arms are longer. Its eyes are set further forward and more on the front of its head. Gosh, it's so freaky. Its jaw... it really throws me off. Rest in peace, XXX Tentacion. I didn't mean to mention jaw like that. Yeah, it's pretty freaky too. I like that one too. I like that design too. I really like the Raptor hybrid personally. I know a lot of people are gonna look at this and say, "What is wrong with you? This is Jurassic Park." Guys, Jurassic Park isn't about dinosaurs. We'll talk about what it's about later on, but we all know what it's about. Anyways, once the producers saw this concept art, they shut down the project, quote, almost immediately. So they took one look at Raptor Man and decided that was not the way they wanted to go with these movies. So we never got our beloved Raptors or Raptor Man. And also, I guess there's one thing I should add. There was also another Raptor hybrid that had a gun for an arm. You know, I agree, if I saw this thing and I was trying to, you know, make a Jurassic Park movie and I saw the Raptor with a gun, I'd probably also shut it down immediately. They said the Back to the Future thing. I guess you weren't ready for that, but your kids are going to love it because, you know, we're about to get the humanish looking thing in the new movie maybe. All right, moving on. Site C. So let me explain all of the known Jurassic Park sites really quick. Isla Nublar is Site A. It's the main site where the Jurassic Park actual park was at. This island is 120 miles west of Costa Rica. Isla Sorna is another island that is Site B. It's 87 miles southwest of Nublar. This is the island where Jurassic Park 2 and 3 take place. It's also where they initially grew the dinosaurs before they moved them to the park on Nublar. And it's also where, you know, like the Spinosaurus stuff happened. The island of Isla Sorna is part of a group of islands called the Five Deaths. And among these 5 islands in the Five Deaths, we get the island of Isla Muerta. Now, Site C very likely is Isla Muerta, which means the land of the dead. Site C is likely the place where Jurassic World Rebirth, the new movie, is going to take place. It's not confirmed on this being the actual location of the new movie, but from different parts of the lore and like recent video game stuff in Jurassic World Evolution, we see that there is a secret hybrid development research station ran by Dr. Henry Wu on Isla Muerta, which makes me think that that's very likely where this movie is going to take place, as we get a weird looking thing here. Anyways, Dr. Henry Wu's research station there is so secret that not even Hammond knew about it. But the hybrids that were on this island could range from anything like the D-Rex that we see in the new trailer that looks kind of like a Rancor monster, to like the dinosaur hybrids that we're supposed to get in Jurassic Park 4 that got canceled. The Magdeburg Unicorn. So I know this one is not a dinosaur, but it is a fossil reconstruction. So this was one of, if not the single worst fossil reconstruction on the history of the planet Earth. This thing was discovered in a place called the Unicorn Cave in Germany. This is a cave that was said to be a place of unicorn artifact trade in the 1600s, when they used to use these bones to make medicine. It was named after the mayor of Magdeburg, Germany, because this guy said that these bones had to be from a unicorn. And yeah, I mean, look at this thing. I don't even know where any of its organs would have gone, but I appreciate the creative ingenuity that went into trying to piece this thing together. The real creature that these bones actually came from was a mix between different creatures. It has the big horn tusk thing from a narwhal, which is, you know, that big marine mammal that has a big horn that often gets mistaken for a unicorn horn and did a lot back in history, and its horn got sold as a unicorn horn during medieval times. It has the legs of a woolly mammoth and the skeleton and skull from a woolly rhinoceros, which was this huge, hairy, rhino-looking thing that lived during the Ice Age. The D-Rex. So this is a mutated looking dinosaur creature that we saw in the trailer of the new Jurassic World Rebirth movie. If you're watching this in the future and this thing isn't even in the movies, that's something that happens sometimes, and I will be sad because I actually like this thing. The D-Rex appears to be significantly larger than basically all the other regular carnivorous dinosaurs, and it looks like a Rancor from Star Wars, kind of mixed with a T-Rex and even like a xenomorph from Alien. But as far as what this thing is, we don't really know exactly. What we know for sure is one of the producers for the movie, Frank Marshall, said that these things are just dinosaurs that didn't work and that they were mistakes caused by genetic engineering. Maybe there's some human DNA in there that screwed them up. Maybe they're just an actual accident. As we can see, they have little T-Rex hands along with big arms that it uses to walk around on too. So it has 6 arms or 6 limbs in total. But overall, this D-Rex thing I'm pretty pumped for, because I feel like they have the opportunity to truly make this into more of a horror movie than the original Jurassic Park movies that Spielberg did. But overall, I'm sure they will do good. Maybe I shouldn't say that because we saw Dominion. But I have hope. I have hope it could be good. It has cool dinosaurs in it, so can it be bad in that case? Tier 6. All dinosaurs are sick. In the original Jurassic Park movie, the first Jurassic Park, we first see a sick Triceratops. Later on, after the Tyrannosaur attack, Dr. Grant and the kids see this massive Brachiosaurus, and it gets close to them, where it then sneezes all over them, indicating that it has some sort of cold maybe. We also see the velociraptors in the kitchen scene looking in the window and snorting and blowing all over the glass, indicating that maybe it has some sort of mucus in its lungs as well. But along with this, we see the raptors on top of the table, unable to smell the children directly underneath them. And if this thing is an apex predator, surely it would be able to smell children 2 feet away from them. But they are from a different time period, so I guess we could say, oh, they can't smell something like us because it doesn't know how to smell us. An even bigger thing is we see the T-Rex inches from Alan Grant in the breakout scene, where Alan Grant's standing there and the T-Rex is like this to him, and literally inches from the T-Rex can't smell him, but it's blowing out its nostrils a whole bunch. So because of all these things, we can assume that maybe all the dinosaurs on the island are actually sick. In the book, they mention how some of the dinosaurs are really out of breath because they're used to a complete different amount of oxygen in the atmosphere, as it was completely different back in the day of the dinosaurs. So maybe they're sick because of lack of oxygen, maybe they're sick of just the way everything is and the fact that they are monsters. I would say that. I know not everybody's going to say that. A lot of people are like, no, they're dinosaurs, but I'm saving it for the end. Anyways, in the lore, we have it explained very clearly that they're not worried about dinosaurs leaving the island. And the reason for that is because of something called the lysine contingency. Basically, all these dinosaurs are engineered to have a lysine deficiency, which means they don't produce enough of this essential amino acid. So if they don't get this amino acid from the park veterinarians, or from the park like dispelling it to them, they will go into a coma and die. But as we know, life found a way to get around the lysine contingency, and somehow they were getting lysine. The 5 deaths. The 5 deaths refers to an island chain that has Isla Sorna in it. These 5 islands are the Muertes Archipelago, which means the 5 deaths. Now the reason they have this name is because of this Native American myth about this brave warrior who faces execution on each of the 5 islands. This warrior was said to be so strong that whenever he was allowed to choose his own execution by an evil king, he chose 5 different ways to die all at once: burning, drowning, crushing, hanging, and beheading. So anyways, these islands are named because of this, I guess. Of these 5 islands, Isla Sorna is said to be one of the only that is likely populated with dinosaurs. But as we see in the new Jurassic World movie that's going to come out, we might see dinosaurs on another island. Dinosaurs are dragons. This is just a fact. Throughout history, dinosaur bones were found but not referred to as dinosaurs because the word dinosaur is just a grouping that the scientific community has made up in modern days. We've literally been finding dinosaur bones for thousands of years, and the name dinosaur has only been around since 1842. Therefore, we had a different name for dinosaurs: dragons. So just because we say it in modern day doesn't make it untrue in the past. They were dragons. They are dragons, and they are also dinosaurs. Look at this picture, okay? You can't tell me you look at this thing and say, oh, that's just, that's not a dinosaur. Come on, guys. This is a new pterosaur that they found and named oh my gosh, how am I supposed to say that? Thampungaka shawi. But this thing has a spear-like mouth with a wingspan of 22 feet. Even like back in the day in 260 AD, the Chinese were finding dinosaur bones, and you know what they called them? They called them dragon bones, because that's what they are. They are dragons. People be saying dragons aren't real. Bro, look at the pictures of them. They're dadgum dragons. They've been dragons for thousands of years. How long have they been dinosaurs? How many? 1840 to modern day. What have they been dinosaurs for 200 and something years? But they've been dragons for 800 years, so who's right? Me or the guy with dysentery? Me. Anyways, another thing about dragons that I really appreciate and I'm going to dump on you today. I'm going to information dump onto you. You guys are taking it out of context. So the thing about dragons is either dragons existed and we recorded the accounts in almost every single civilization, every major civilization around the world, or humankind is ingrained with this thing in our brains that makes us want to make up stories of dragons. And so every individual civilization came up with the dragon story on their own because we have a brain that makes us want to talk about dragons. Either that is all true, or societies are just connected and were connected on a deeper level than we understand in modern history. And so the story of the dragons was spread throughout these societies because they actually were connected. So there you have it. I mean, dragons, dinosaurs, dragons, Hupia. The Hupia. So this is something that is unique to the Jurassic Park novel that made me think that the dinosaurs in the book are less of animals and more of some sort of evil force that they created. So there's this scene in the Jurassic Park book, only like 5 pages in, where this boy is rushed to a Costa Rican hospital from the island, and the kid looks like he's got attacked by a velociraptor. The boy is barely able to do anything, but he says the word raptor. Now, one of the Costa Rican locals hears him say this, and then also smells the kid's wounds because his wounds smell really bad for some reason, and the local says that this was done by a Hupia. And then he does the sign of the cross over his body, kind of indicating that this thing is a really evil entity. Now, the Hupia in the lore of the book says that it's an evil entity that once dwelled in the Costa Rican mountains, and it was like this faceless night ghost that was essentially a vampire that would kidnap small children. According to the belief in the book, the Hupia once lived in the mountains of Costa Rica, but now inhabited the islands offshore. So it could be on something like Isla Nublar. Now, this Costa Rican local specifically mentions how the smell of this kid's wounds isn't normal, and that's how he knows it's the Hupia. Also in this scene, the boy convulses and he throws up blood, and then his heart stops. And this is when the doctor tries to start doing mouth to mouth, but then the local stops the doctor and says, no, the Hupia will cross over. The doctor persists and he says again, no, you don't understand these things. This kind of indicates that the Hupia is less of a actual being and more of some sort of spirit that possesses someone. In the real legend of the Hupia, it came from the old times of the Taino culture that existed even before the Spanish had come and spread their ideas in Catholicism, and the Hupia historically was described as this ghost spirit of someone who died but still existed on the earthly plane. Anyways, some people even go as far as to believe that the reason the raptors seem so evil in the movies and the book is because of the Hupia. And in other words, maybe they created bodies or vessels for these spirits that couldn't really hurt people before to now be terrible lizard man-eating machines. There is also a scene in the book where they find a bunch of compies eating a child in a crib. And I thought I would include that because the legend of the Hupia is about this spirit that would attack small children and stuff like that. So it's kind of like it manifested itself in the form of little dinosaurs. All dinosaurs are hybrids. Technically, all the dinosaurs are hybrids when you really think about it. They got most of the dinosaur DNA, but they ended up filling in the gaps with different things like frogs. And that's why the dinosaurs broke out and they didn't realize they were out there, is because, especially like in the book, it explains how they had a computer counting every single dinosaur in the system, but it didn't know there was more dinosaurs there. So once they inputted a higher number, they were able to start to track the other random dinosaurs that were around the park. And the reason why the number had multiplied is because the frog DNA in these dinosaurs basically made the dinosaurs do a sex change, because that's what frogs do. if there's no other gender in their environment, they will change into another gender. Tier 7. Jurassic Park didn't create dinosaurs. This is the idea that Jurassic Park did not actually create dinosaurs, but rather monsters wrapped in dinosaur skin. I feel like this is a really, really good theory, and it's actually my own personal belief. I don't know why this isn't more of a popular idea, but basically, when you think about it, Hammond just wanted to make money. I don't really think he cared about the dinosaurs that much. And so, to make this money, he basically just created these monsters wrapped in this dinosaur skin. And so, he just wanted to create these monsters to put into a park with something close enough to looking like dinosaurs to getting people excited about going there. I personally consider this canon because of one specific scene in the Jurassic Park novel, and that's the scene where the T-Rex uses its tongue to try to get them. Basically, Tim and Lex are behind this waterfall, and the T-Rex knows they're behind there, but it can't see them. So what this T-Rex does is it opens its mouth and its tongue slithers out, and the book describes its tongue as moving around and feeling the pipes in the wall around there and rippling with muscular movement like an elephant's trunk. Not only does it reach around and feel everything, but it starts to raise up like a snake once it feels Tim's body, and then it curls around him like an anaconda, and it's so strong that the children are just completely powerless to fight off the T-Rex's tongue. Once it wraps around Tim, it squeezes him so tight that he begins to lose consciousness. So how could you read this scene in the Jurassic Park novel and not think that these things are monsters? Because in reality, why would a dinosaur ever do that? In what world would a T-Rex have a tongue that can do something like that? Unless, of course, maybe the frog DNA made its tongue like that, but frogs' tongues don't move like that, not even close. So I'm just gonna cut that one out. That one's not even good. There's even a theory along with this that there's actually no dinosaur DNA at all. People think this because of how extremely unlikely it would have been for a perfectly preserved mosquito to have the DNA from just one singular dinosaur species. And so basically, Jurassic Park containing dinosaurs is just a cover because they want to make a lot of money, and tourists aren't going to want to see a park full of random monsters. They want to see something tangible, like a historical giant lizard thing. And if you pair this with the idea that happens in the movie where Hammond tells of his first big creation to Ellie Sattler. When they're eating ice cream, he talks about how he created a flea circus when he was younger, and he built this miniature park with a merry-go-round and a wee little trapeze and a car carousel and a seesaw, and the whole thing was motorized. And people would come up and look at it, and they would just imagine that they're seeing the fleas and that the things were just moving all on their own because it was motorized. And so I feel like that's kind of a reference to people coming and seeing the dinosaurs and seeing what they want to see rather than what they are. Monsters. They are monsters. At least in the book. In the book, they almost have to be monsters. I don't really know how you would get around what happens in the book there. The Green Flame. In the Return to Jurassic Park comics, the American Army was on Isla Nublar protecting something called the Green Flame. They were doing this because Biosyn was trying to get their hands on it, and obviously whatever this thing was had to be really important if the US military was getting involved. In the story, Ellie Sattler, Alan Grant, and other characters were threatened with being executed by the army just because they wanted to avoid leaving witnesses of its existence. One character was even killed just while being interrogated about the Green Flame. What's sad is that this comic book portrayed it as something really mysterious and kind of set it up to be like it was going to be some big important thing and have a big reveal, but then the comic book series suddenly changed to a completely unrelated storyline, and it was never revealed what it actually was. And to this day, we still don't know. But I think it would be really sick if we could get some sort of piece of Jurassic Park media that was strictly horror and was all about some sort of mysterious thing called the Green Flame that was maybe like some sort of ancient curse on this island, and it kind of explained what that was, and maybe that's not a good idea. I'm starting to think about it now. Nublar Natives Genocide. So according to a little bit of lore, the island of Isla Nublar was discovered in 1525 and had indigenous people living on it. Centuries later, when John Hammond leased the island from the Costa Rican government, a conflict arose between the Jurassic Park's company InGen and the natives that lived on the island, and this resulted in a massive slaughter. So there were tribes living there that didn't want to leave, and so InGen hired mercenaries to forcefully relocate them, and this is when all this happened. So all the natives were either killed in the slaughter or relocated to reservations or slums elsewhere. Once everyone who originally lived on the island was gone, only then were they able to begin construction on the park and the research facilities. T-Rex animatronic moved on its own. I wanted to name this one Five Nights at Rexy's, but I didn't think everybody would get the reference. But that's essentially what this one is about. So during the filming of the Jurassic Park movie, the first one, there was an added bit of horror that was the animatronic T-Rex and how it would sometimes move on its own. So when they were filming this movie, they built 2 life-size Tyrannosaurus Rex animatronics that when they were constructed, it was a crazy undertaking in general. But really, these animatronics is what made this movie so fantastic in my opinion. Jurassic Park's practical effects were similar in my opinion to Star Wars in the way they use their practical effects, like how in Star Wars they use these tiny models to get a scene like the Death Star trench. Instead, Jurassic Park used a giant 12,000-pound T-Rex as a practical effect. So, of the 2 T-Rex robots that were constructed, one was a more precise build that was just the torso up, but the other one was 37 feet long, was completely full size, and ended up weighing 12,000 pounds. It worked incredibly well for what it was. It moved super lifelike, it was able to handle the massive amount of weight that it was, but when they went to film the breakout scene, there was a problem. What happened was they had fitted this animatronic T-Rex with this latex skin mold that covered its entire body and made it look like it had real skin. The skin was calculated for the hydraulics, so it was able to handle the movement of it, but the only problem is when they went to film in the rainy breakout scene, the latex skin started to soak in the water from the rain. So since the team had carefully calculated how it had to move with this weight, the water that it soaked up threw off its movement. This caused Rexy to vibrate uncontrollably and also act a little bit unpredictably in general. It was said that the crew had to stop between each take and try to dry off the giant robot T-Rex with towels and hair dryers. It was also said when the crew was on lunch breaks, the animatronic would just move on its own. I mean, imagine you're filming this movie and you have something that's already a hazard because it's a giant robot, and then it starts moving and it already looks freaky in general. So, but even beyond this thing just moving on its own, the main reason why people were so afraid of the T-Rex animatronic was because puppeteers often had to go inside of it to do maintenance and actual some puppeteering as well. It's really similar to like the real Five Nights at Freddy's thing. It had that going on. People would get inside the giant T-Rex and then it might start moving and oh my gosh, that didn't happen. But they said it got really close to happening on quite a few occasions because, you know, they're in there, they're trying to do some maintenance, and then this thing starts mangling someone up, and then all of a sudden we have Rexy Fazbear, Freddy Fazbear, wonderful guy, which, you know, this never happened. They didn't get mangled. We did not get a sentient T-Rex animatronic that wants to kill everyone. We only got the regular one in the movie that is just a monster. But wow, what a timeline that would have been if we had gotten Rexy Fazbear, Freddy Pervatasaurus Rex. Wow, you're still watching. I cannot believe you just watched till the end of the video. Thank you. Seriously though, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for 500,000 subscribers. I do not deserve this, but you guys have made my dreams come true through your support and through watching my videos about utter complete nonsense. If you like this video, consider subscribing. I will probably be doing some more dinosaur stuff. And if you're going to do anything, read this book. If you like Jurassic Park, read the Michael Crichton. Is it Crichton or Crichton? I really should know that. But read this book. It's a great book. I'm not affiliated. I'm not sponsored. I need a sponsor. Does anybody want to sponsor me? Please, I really need sponsors. If this video has okay views, then maybe sponsor me. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Subscribe for a lobotomy, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.